Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com and today I'm talking with Adam Croft. Adam is a British author, best known for the Knight and Culverhouse series of crime thrillers which have been Amazon bestsellers. So welcome Adam.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So it's great to have you on the show. We don't actually have many British people on the show, so it's great to have you.
It's good to be here.
So why don't you start by telling us a bit more about yourself and how you got into writing?
I've always been writing from a very early age, but I was on holiday nearly 4 years ago now, and I decided to write my first full-length book, which I worked on and off for about 3 years or so before I decided to self-publish to Amazon through their Kindle program. Really, all I wanted was for somebody that I didn't already know to read the book and to tell me what they thought. No, it ended up being far more successful than that. And that particular book, I think to date, sold about 90,000 copies. And by the end of last year, all the books together had sold about 140,000 copies nearly. So.
That's fantastic, and we love hearing those stories. And you know, it's very interesting to me how have been these sort of outliers, you know, who've sold the millions, but then there's people like you who are selling hundreds of thousands, and people like me who are selling tens of thousands at the moment. But you know, there's lots of us who are now, you know, making a decent amount of money. So, why did you self-publish? Why didn't you pitch the book, or did you?
I didn't know. Still to date, I've not written to spoken to any publishers at all off my own back. Also had a couple of people speaking to me, but to be honest, I'm very happy doing independent publishing. I'm always somebody who tries to go out and do things themselves. I just wanted to try and retain some control over what I was doing. Initially I wasn't taking it particularly seriously either. It's just a book that I'd put together, wanted to get out there, see what people thought. I always thought it'd be a bit of a pipe dream, really, and never really seriously pursued it until about 3 months into the release of the first book, and that started to take off. And I thought maybe actually there's something here. And by that point, it was working so well, independently published. I saw no real reason to move to a publisher, and I still don't.
Mm. And so what's what are you doing going forward in terms of your writing? Are you full-time author now, or what are you up to?
Yes, spend all my time on writing now. It's been about a year now since it really took off. So yeah, that's what I'm spending my time doing.
That's great. Now tell us a bit more about the books themselves. You know, what are they about? What type of books?
They're all generally within the crime genre. The first two books were from the Knight and Culverhouse series. We've got DS Wendy Knight, who's the female lead, DCI Jack Culverhouse, who's her superior. They're far more gritty, real-to-life thriller-type detective fiction, not really for the faint-hearted. Whereas the other series that I'm also working on now is set around an amateur detective called Kempston Hardwick, who's far more in sort of Agatha Christie, Midsummer Murders vein of things. So all crime, but two very, very different ends of the spectrum.
Mm. What is your attraction to crime? Why do you like writing crime novels?
It's always fascinated me. I think it fascinates everyone. That's why it's one of the biggest genres. I think everybody likes to try and solve a mystery before anybody else, and I think we actually enjoy being wrong-footed by the author. It's just always a genre that I've liked and has appealed, I suppose. For men, that tends to be the leading genre anyway.
Interesting you say that. I thought it was more kind of historical war, men's adventure.
It can be. I think generally more action-based, nothing too in-depth. Men tend to read a lot more for leisure. Well, a bit of an exception myself, but I think anything that gives you that sort of easy escape, really, without having to sort of think too much into things, tends to appeal more to men than to women.
Again, interesting you say that, because that's why I read, and that's why I write, is to provide some kind of escape. So, I wonder sometimes if the whole gender thing is just a load of crap.
Quite possibly, quite possibly.
Okay, so I'm interested there, and also about the crime thing, because you mentioned Agatha Christie, which is more mystery. I would say that the crime genre is much grittier with more violence, whereas Agatha Christie is definitely a clean kind of mystery. Where do you think you lie on the spectrum, and do you think crime is actually getting more violent than mystery?
It is, and that's why I try to sort of pull things back a little bit towards the mystery end with the Kempston Hardwicke series, which is on the mystery end. I think with crime, really, you've got the gritty thriller end and you've got the mystery end, and the first two are definitely at the gritty end. And I mean, social barriers are being broken down, taboos are being broken, and as a result, it can seem that fiction gets more violent or grittier. But I think there's a lot of safety and surety in the traditional mystery style, which I absolutely love. Really love Agatha Christie. A lot of books around that end of the mystery end of crime, and that's something I really wanted to play around with, and something to think about much more deeply as well. It's a far more challenging type of book to write, because you've got to think through the logical process of how things are done, and it's not so much entertainment. There's a hell of a lot more logical thought in it.
So then my question is, how do you write a mystery? So, for example, Tess Gerritsen, I've read about with her books, she says she doesn't know who done it until she writes and writes and writes, and suddenly it's revealed. So how do you write a mystery?
I do tend to know who did it at the start. I'm so early on in my career at the moment, really, to be able to sort of say in general how I do things. But so far, I've always known who did it and why, and built around that. There's a far more sort of logical process, quite a lot of planning to the mystery side of things. But there are a lot of things that come out when I'm writing the books that I never planned. Characters. There's one character in the Night in Culverhouse books, a fairly important character who runs through each of them, who I never intended to be there. He just appeared in one scene. And that happens quite a bit, really. Things about characters come out which you'd never planned, and events happen which you don't plan. So I always try to have a structure there, something to keep me writing and know where I'm going, which tends to stave off writer's block quite effectively, really, when you've got almost a list of, once I finish this bit, then I'm going on to here, and that tends to help on that front as well.
So you sound like more like sort of 80% plotting, 20% pantsing.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the figures, but yeah.
Well, it's funny because I'm kind of with you as well on that. I like to plan a certain amount, but then probably about 50% I plan, and then I start writing that, and then more stuff arrives. So, but as you say, I'm at the very beginning as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to give yourself that creative freedom. I mean, different genres and different styles of book work quite differently. I mean, with the Night in Culverhouse ones, very little planning is needed, really. I mean, I have a rough idea of what's going to happen in each chapter and go from there. Whereas, when you've got an intricate murder plot and red herrings thrown in and all these different sort of tools of traditional mystery writing, it does need a lot more planning. So I suppose the style dictates the way it's written, really.
And do you have any recommended books for people, in terms of how to write a mystery? Did you read any specific books, or how did you learn how to write that genre?
Just through reading the genre itself. There's no real way of sort of learning how to do it other than knowing what's there. But taking that with a pinch of salt as well, because you want to try and develop your own style and way of doing things. I mean, yeah, I did read and still do read. Everyone's still learning a lot of books on how to write, different blogs and things like that. But don't take anything too seriously. Don't take any books too seriously. Don't take fiction too seriously. Don't take blogs too seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. I think I'm a big proponent of independent publishing and independent writing, and I think trying to sort of pigeonhole yourself too much can be dangerous. We've got this fantastic opportunity now as independent writers to be able to go out there and write what we want, and to change and push the boundaries a little bit. And I think we should embrace that.
No, I think that is a fantastic attitude, and I think sometimes people forget that one of the reasons we're doing this is the freedom to write whatever we like and not just some pigeonhole blockbuster. So what else are you excited about then? I know you've got an audio project. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, my third book, Exit Stage Left, was the first Kempston Hardwick mystery. I was approached in January by Robert Dawes, who's a well-known TV actor, who said he'd read the books and wanted to adapt them for audio plays, audio dramatisations, which are obviously differ from audio books in that they're cast and adapted and acted out like an audio film rather than a straight read. We had some fantastic people involved with that. We had Emily Atack, who's been on The In-Betweeners, and she's in a film called Outside Bet later this year with Bob Hoskins and Jenny Agutter. We've had Ted Robbins, very well-known comedian from Little Britain, Phoenix Nights, various other things. It's just been absolutely fantastic, really. Everything's been in the last 3 months. I've working with Robert on adapting it. We've recorded it all, had it all edited. And it's ready to go within the next week or two, and it's quite exciting, really. It's almost 2 hours long. It's unabridged from the book, really, and adapted, and it sounds really good.
Well, that is exciting, and I'm going to the London Book Fair this week, and I went to a workshop on rights yesterday, because I think this is one thing that independents struggle with or don't particularly understand. It's that there are rights we can sell, like you presumably sold adaptation rights or audio rights there. So how did that work? Did you sell the rights? Was this a collaboration? And without details, of course, who gets paid and how does that work?
Well, it is a collaboration. All the book rights obviously still remain with me, and the audio rights are split. Robert and I set up a company to deal with the audio dramatisations, in which things are split equally there. Because, I mean, in terms of the actual production of the audio, I mean, there's very little I can do there, really. I mean, I was there throughout the whole thing on a sort of a director basis almost. But in terms of producing it, I don't have that technical capability. I'm not an actor, so I couldn't do that side of things. So I'm very happy with a straight split there.
So what about other rights? Are you actively looking at translation rights or film rights? Anything else?
Not actively. I mean, I've been looking at translation as well. I think I'm just sort of generally finding my feet, really. In terms of going down traditional routes of selling rights and things, I'm not known for going down traditional routes too much, so I'm not quite sure on that front. But I'm just having a play, really, and seeing what's there. There's a fair few opportunities presenting themselves, and we'll see where it takes us.
No, I'm very excited about that. At the book fair again, they were mentioning how big Brazil is in terms of things really taking off. The economy is better than the UK, and of course Amazon has opened a store there. So the question is, does one do Portuguese?
I think that would be a very smart move. Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone's listening who is, into Portuguese translation, let me know. Maybe Adam as well. Okay, so I also wanted to ask you about your feelings, comparing the UK market to the American market, because, how have your sales been across the two, and do you think there's a different type of book?
Yes, my sales have been very UK-centric, really. The Kempston Hardwick series is, percentage-wise, more popular abroad than the other series is. I think because it's set around, the chocolate box, English villages, and it's a sort of scenery that a lot of people aspire to, especially from abroad. A lot of people like to think of Britain, not with our smog-filled cities and credit crunch, but with the chocolate box villages and the village green, people playing cricket and our pubs and what have you. So I think they sell better abroad for that reason. Whereas the thrillers, the Night and Culverhouse series, tends to be very UK centric. and the way the books are received is completely different as well. Reviews of the books on Amazon.com and Amazon.co.uk can be completely different, as they can across the different platforms as well. I found that Apple iBooks, the reviews that come through on there compared to Amazon are markedly different.
Did you have you used the KDP Select at all?
I have. Too early for me to tell really whether that's had a massive difference. But one thing that is very, very handy actually is the fact that you get 5 days worth of free promotions, which I found to be very useful, especially when you initially launch a book. To put that on there free for a couple of days, which really does generate the interest, gets the book out there. And even books, my first 2 books, which have been paid for the best part of a year now, I then changed and put those both onto 48-hour free promotions as well. After which the sales were 3-4 times higher than they were prior to the free promotion. It's for the sake of giving a few thousand away for free, which costs me nothing. After the promotion's done, the sales are 3-4 times higher than they were before.
But did you have to pull them from the other stores in order to use Select, because it has to be exclusive?
You do. There are, without going too far into it, it's the small print, but yeah, one of the conditions of it is that they do need to be pulled from other stores, which is a downside, but that's the way that they pull you in, I suppose. But I mean, sales on the other stores haven't been as high as Amazon, haven't really convinced me to stay there. The first book did extremely well on iBooks, but that's slowed down now as the book's getting a year old. So I decided to try with exit stage left on the on KDP Select. I also use Amazon's Create Space as well for the paperback versions.
Marvellous.
I have to plug in there. They arrived this morning, that's why I got them there.
Always nice. No, I'm at that point right now. My period of Select has just finished, and I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to now roll everything back out to everywhere, or hold it back because I don't know if I can be bothered. But, in terms of the sales were never that big. But saying that, Kobo for the UK, of course, is really big at WH Smith's. For people listening, Kobo is global, but in the UK it's quite dominant, I think. And they're opening a self-publishing platform soon, and possibly even launching this week. So I don't know, would that change your mind? Will you be into Kobo?
Absolutely. I think the fact that KDP Select gives you 3 months of exclusive, deciding for no longer than that unless you want to. I think and Amazon is by far the biggest marketplace, and even if Kobo manages to climb to second, it's still going to be peanuts compared to Amazon. So I think having the book there for a period of, even if it's just 3 months, is a good move before opening it up to the others. I mean, the Kindle lending library as well. Getting a $1 or $2 for each book that's borrowed. For a lot of authors who have got their books set at a low price range, which many of mine are, you can actually earn more money when your book is borrowed than when it's bought. So it really still is very early though. It's only been a few months that the thing's been open, and I'm notoriously disorganised as well, so I've not had time to go through all the figures and break them all down yet. But it's certainly well worth considering if you're going to publish a book. Yeah.
And I guess the big question then that people will have in their mind is you've sold over 140,000 books or whatever. How did you do that? What is your secret?
I wish I knew. Still not entirely sure. I think really you need to be sort of upfront and willing to market yourself in any way you can, because at the end of the day, no matter how indie you want to be, you are still a brand as an author, and it is a business, and it needs treating as such. You need to market it and get it out there, and really be proactive with it. I mean, social media is fantastic as well. Twitter has been a godsend for me and getting in touch with various people, as has Facebook, Goodreads, different websites such as those. I mean, I had no help on the PR front, on the marketing front, and anybody can get out there and do it. And I'm actually putting a book together at the moment, which will be released later this year, which will help people to make a big success out of self-publishing, hopefully.
But I'm obviously somebody who cares a lot about marketing, and I experiment with all kinds of things. But I'm wondering if it really, like, again, the 80-20 rule, if 80% of this comes down to writing a good book in a category that sells.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, crime books will always sell high anyway, because of what they are, whereas some of the more specialised genres, their share of the market may be lower. But then again, in the more specialised genres, readers are willing to pay more for a good book, whereas in crime, there's so much competition as well. You don't quite get so much bang for your buck. So I don't think there's any real advantage or disadvantage to different genres. I mean, everybody writes what they write, and there's a lot to be said for the specialised genres that do give authors a bigger return per sale.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's you. I'm also talking to Rachel Abbott, who in the UK, has sold lots and lots, and top seller, and Kerry Wilkinson, of course, who got picked up, and they're all crime books, and I'm reading them, and they're quite similar. Not that I'm going to suddenly come out with some detective story, but it's interesting to me how the British market seems to feel about these. Or the other one is the Voss and Peterson one. There's so many of these, but of course, as you say, you write what you love, and you love crime and mystery. I did also want to ask you about the entrepreneurial side, because you've said a few things there. You started a company with this, this audio guy. You think very strategically about what you're doing. How much does an author need this entrepreneurial mindset in order to succeed at being an indie?
I think for indie writing, it's essential. I mean, that's the background I came from anyway. Before I got into writing, I'd been setting up and running my own companies and doing that since I was 20. So that's the background I had. So I suppose going out there and marketing myself as a brand and as a company was quite natural, really. Unfortunately, it's something I've got experience at. But I mean, the internet makes it so easy for everybody with social media, Twitter, Facebook. I mean, there are so many guides out there for making the most of these channels. It is something that anybody can do. The market's completely open. Every reader can find every writer through Amazon, whereas before, you might only be in certain bookshops, or if a publisher holds you back and doesn't publish your work, then you can't get it out there. But the market is completely open. Anybody can read anything by anybody else.
No, I like that. Every reader can find every writer. I like that. And as writers, we have to find a load of readers.
It helps.
It sure does. So what do you think is coming up? I mean, in terms of, what's going to happen over the next year, and where should we be focusing our energy?
Well, it's only going to get bigger. For the last couple of years, indie authors have been getting bigger. In the last year or so, we had the success stories, as you mentioned, with Kerry Wilkinson and with others. And I think that's only going to continue growing. More people buying Kindles, more people reading online. I think it's becoming far more portable as well. The thing with the audio dramas, I mean, that's another market which is growing, because even reading itself now can be time consuming. People like to listen to audio while they're doing their housework, while they're walking, or I mean, you can't read while you're walking, well, you can, but it gets a bit dangerous. So these markets are changing a lot. It's difficult to say what's going to happen, because I think we're in a big period of change. But I think for people like us, it's only going to get better.
And would you sign with a publisher?
I don't think I would. I mean, I've not had anything that's got to sort of a serious negotiation stage at all. I've been approached by various agents and things, but no one that I've sort of felt confident enough with. I mean, the fact that I can do what I want when I want with it is hugely appealing to me. Don't have to write a book every year. It doesn't have to be on a certain subject. I can choose my own cover designs. I can just be a bit more leisurely with it. And that, for me, opens up the whole creative process. Not having to worry about different burdens, different responsibilities, for me means that I write better books. So, I haven't come across a publisher yet who would afford me that same kind of liberty. If it were to happen, then perhaps. But I would say, at the moment in time, almost certainly not. I'm very happy being independent.
No, that's brilliant, and I love that attitude. Okay, so if people want to check out, if they want to start with one of your books, what do you recommend, and why should they pick that one?
It depends on which style they prefer, really. I mean, the one that I'm proudest of is the most recent one. I think the books have been getting better. So Exit Stage Left, the first Kempston Hardwicke mystery, would be my recommendation there. The first book, I've made no bones about the fact that I'm not that keen on it myself, purely because I wasn't expecting anybody to read it. If I'd known it was going to be as successful as it was and get the reach that it did, then I certainly would have spent a lot more time on that one. I mean, it's still a good book.
Didn't make any difference, did it?
No. It's got has some very good ratings, and a lot of people do say that's their favourite one. So it's just my personal preference. But they're far more gritty reads. The first one's Too Close for Comfort. The second one's Guilty as Sin. They're all, the two of those are fairly sort of easy, straightforward reads, fairly sort of action-led, and enjoyable reads. So if that's the thing you like, then those.
Fantastic. So where can people find you?
Amazon's always a good bet, or on my website, adamcroft.net. And kempstonhardwicke.com will be live within the next few days. That's going to have the audio drama available for download and CDs there, as well as the books. But really, Amazon or iBooks, Kobo, whatever your preferred platform is, I'm on most of those.
Brilliant. Well, thanks ever so much for your time, Adam. That was great.
No problem. See you soon.